and my sisters, only they can understand. We'll fight this war together, together we will stand.
Hey everybody, it's Joe, and thanks for tuning in to TVO Campfire. What this show's about is about successful veterans, and they're bringing you the stories and their experiences. And we hope that it can provide inspiration to each of you out there, or maybe a veteran that you know to help in their life.
Today with us, we have a veteran who is an American film actor known for Crisis in the Valley, Taken Over, and Acts of Violence. He graduated high school and enlisted in the United States Army as a helicopter mechanic, and eventually applied and was accepted into Rotary Wing Flight School. And well, he earned his flight wings. After multiple overseas deployments, including Iraq and Afghanistan, he eventually decided after 23 and a half years to go ahead and retire. And currently what he does is works as a Lifeflight helicopter pilot. And when he is not on set doing film, you'll find him doing a lot of things that are pretty significant. His breakout film was a supporting role in as Anthony King in an independent project, Crisis in the Valley. He's been in numerous independent and commercial projects, including a YouTube science fiction web series known as Cold Blooded, where he plays Dr. Bradley. We're very delighted to introduce you to him, fellow veteran. Welcome to the show, Stephen P. Hamm.
Thanks, Rebecca. Appreciate you having me. Thanks for having me, Joe. Appreciate it. I am honored and humbled.
Oh, absolutely, man. It's being a fixed wing guy, I got some respect for you.
Likewise, actually.
At least I know if my engines go out, I can at least glide down to somewhere
Right.
where I want to be. You being a rotary guy, if you lose yours, you turn into a rock and you start to drop instantly. So yeah, my respects to you.
I'm always looking for a place to crash land if necessary, unfortunately. Yeah. So it's always in the back of my mind.
We're
Good deal,
excited
man.
to have you. This is just such an honor, and you are still out there just helping others and saving lives all the time. And it's really neat. But at the same time, you're doing some other things. And I know, Joe, you've got a lot of questions already for Steve. So we're excited to have you.
Well, I'm excited to be here. I mean, it's a great way to start the week, and I'm just glad to be a part of this and to share whatever knowledge and tips and advice I can, I guess.
Sweet. Well, congratulations on being able to take what you did in the military and really, really continue being successful outside of your military career with what you learned while you were in. That's admirable in itself. You took what you were trained with, and not only are you using it to continue to put food, on the table and a roof over the head for your family, but you're also able to give back to your community with what you're doing that we'll get into a little later. And so, one, totally admirable. Thank you for that.
Oh, you're
Let's
welcome.
go all the way
You're
back
gonna
to.
give me some tears now. Stop.
I love it.
Oh man.
Gotcha. Cool. So let's go back to all the way when you were a little rugrat. Where were you born? How'd your childhood kind of coming up? You live different places, etc.
Well, I was born in St. Pete, Florida, so I'm a Florida boy originally, transplant in Ohio now. But I was an only child growing up, so didn't have any brothers or sisters to pick on me or pick on vice versa. So I guess my creative mind started working a lot. My parents divorced about when I was 10, I think. So I lived with my mom for a while, and it's like whenever she go to work and stuff, at that point in time, I was in the house, and I just came up with different things to do. And crazy enough as it sounds, that I think I actually started kind of on the acting journey at that point. Excuse me. I would portray myself as like a news anchor or this or that, and kind of set up pseudo sets inside my house and stuff, and just play around with things like that. But I never really mentioned anybody because, kid's not going to do that to his friends who get laughed at. So, but I think that's where that journey started. So, but It was a good upbringing. My mom did a good job. She definitely instilled some great, morals and good character into me. So I do appreciate that. And like we talked earlier, Joe, I after I joined the Army and I was stationed in Texas, I did lose my dad, unfortunately. He did take his own life. So it was hard to come to terms and grips with that. And of course, I still think of him to this day. And, it's when depression, anybody talks about it, that definitely hits home personally. So, but other than that, it was a good upbringing. After I graduated high school, it part of me did want to go to one of the service academies, but I don't think I was ready for that at that time in my life. So I knew that going to service was the best thing for me. That's mainly because, of course, I also did 4 years of high school ROTC, so I was pretty much groomed for the military from the start. But decided to join the Army, and like Rebecca said, served as helicopter mechanic for about 6 years, actually 8 years. And that was a fun job. But you see pilots flying away after you fix a bird, and you're like, man, I wish I could do that. And of course, fortunately, the Army did have a program where you could, apply for flight training. So did that and got accepted, and that was a big leap of faith for me, I think, in my early life, other than joining the military. So that set the stage for a lot of other things to come. So it was interesting. I did enjoy that. It's a unique experience for sure.
Awesome. Did like when you were young, did you have any relatives or any family members that were serving that you kind of maybe looked up to or you learned from?
My dad was in the Air Force for about 4 years, but that was back in my early childhood. So that I didn't even know anything about that. I knew he had served, and that was it. So other than that, no. But I think he just kind of grew me forward, per se. I mean, just kind of the way that his mannerisms and his character was and stuff. I mean, I don't know. We were always took me to some kind of movie that was military related or so on and so forth. So I was pretty much surrounded by that kind of atmosphere most of my life, which, not a bad thing for me. I mean, it was good for me for sure. It pretty much kept me straight and narrow.
So for what you've seen, like with military movies and stuff like that, did you really have a good kind of perception or whatever, if you will?
Yeah, I think I did. Yeah. Of course, now when I see some, my wife's like, she kind of hates going to those movies with me now, especially if they're aviation related, because I'll start cringing or at something, and she's like, stop it, just stop. It's a movie, it's Hollywood, just deal with it. And so it just, but yeah, no, those military movies definitely put something in me, especially when you see stuff that involves, like infantry, special operations, stuff like that. That always intrigued me.
I think a lot of us do that. We'll see something in movies and say that is not the way it is, or yeah, that's so spot on. It just hits too close to home, and I don't even want to see the rest, or seclude ourselves off. Now, you said you had ROTC for all 4 years.
Correct.
Do you think that what you learned there and the training that you received was pretty accurate after you got in to what you had already been prepared for, or do you think there was some differences?
No, it was pretty accurate. Just the basics of foot marching, learning, how to read a map, basically, customs and courtesies and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that was the same going in for sure. So I had a leg up on some people, and how to stand at parade rest or whatever else you want to do, how to salute properly and all that kind of stuff. So that did give me a leg up, but I mean, everyone caught on eventually. But I think the only thing I was scared of in basic, with the drill sergeants, you see that brown round come around, and all of a sudden your respiration or your heart rate increases. You're like, oh great, what do I do now? What's coming around the corner and stuff. So, but you can relate to that, I'm sure. Although I think, like Marine Corps probably had the most intense drill sergeants around ever. So my hat's off to all those guys going through that kind of stuff.
Hoorah.
Yeah, right. Especially with your crucible at the end. I mean, man, hats off to you guys for doing that. That's incredible. So, but I really think though, and not to dig the Army for this, whatever, but I think like Marine Corps recruits, definitely have a better handle on their history and lineage and stuff like that, because it's so drilled into you guys from day one. We learn about it too, but I don't think we're held to like the same standard, unfortunately. I think it starts, going down after we get to our units and stuff like that. But it seems to me like the Marine Corps for sure definitely keeps up with that. So I do give them kudos for that.
Yeah, there's a lot that we had to learn, but I think all branches do. And even though some of the basic training and boot camps are a little bit different in the length of time and the location, I think that there's a set sort of thing that we're all equipped with, so that no matter what branch you're in, we still have certain things that have been instilled. Where did you first get stationed, and did you stay at that duty station for a length of time, or did you get moved around? I mean, I know you had a number of deployments, but just initially.
Yeah. God, I'm trying to remember all that. So in my enlisted days, I spent time at Fort Hood. Which is in Texas, spent time at Fort Ord, California, which is no longer a base. That was short-lived. Actually, during all my times, it was like during the base drawdowns, essentially. So Fort Ord was like a year and a half. Then I got moved to Texas. And that was my longest duty station. That was, for about 6 or 7 years there. But my initial tour was actually over in Germany. I did about 18 months there as well. And when you go into a foreign country, when you come out of the service or basic training when you're a young kid, talk about being thrown into deep end of the pool on that one, trying to learn a new country, language, all that kind of stuff. So that was an eye-opening experience. Fort Hood was good. That was my longest time there, but that's where I got into flight school from there. And then of course, Fort Rucker for training. And ironically, my first duty station out of flight school was back to Germany again. So of course, that's when shortly after 9/11 kicked off, and of course the landscape changed for everybody at that point. So yeah, I really, if I could have seen what was coming at that point, it's like, holy cow. I mean, that changed everybody. So
Stephen, how, like in the very beginning, let's go back to MEPS. In my case, I went in, I took the ASVAB, right? And once I was done, literally they said, hey, this is the only thing you're smart enough to do. And it was either perform administration on enlisted service records, or it was to be a structural mechanic. So yeah, that's the only thing I'm smart enough to do. Cool. What was it for you? What did you get to choose your own? Did they put you where they want you? How did that play out for you?
I think they try to put you where they feel they need you. I mean, it's kind of like a car salesman in a way. They know what they want to sell, and they're trying to get you into that. So my scores were pretty decent. I had high admin scores, like, okay. But they wanted to actually initially put me into an armored type of unit. Actually, it was a 13 Charlie was the MOS title. I forget what actually it was, but fortunately for me, though, I think my ex-brother-in-law now, he was a recruiter at the time, and he was on vacation with us, and I showed him what my scores were, and he's like, you don't want that. He's like, you're going to be in the field all the time. You will never be at home. And, he's like, of course, my ex-wife at the time, she said, she's not going to like that. I'm always going to hear from her. So what you need to do is go back and say, look, you don't want this. You want to go with this instead. And he looked into the 67 series, which was the aviation section. He's like, tell them that you want something different. This is something different area that you want. So long story short, basically, I went to the recruiter and I said, hey, I'm interested in this now. They were a little hesitant to do anything about that, but they still want to make their quota. So basically, I had to sign a piece of paper saying that, okay, if we give you this, then you can't, choose anything else after this. This is your final choice, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, that's fine, okay. And that's pretty much what happened. So I had to get a waiver for it or something. I mean, I'm not sure how true that was back then, but they were trying to kind of put a little fear in God in me, like, hey, don't do this. And they were kind of shocked that I came back and said, hey, with these scores, I could probably get something else. They're like, well, who told you that? And it's like, just talking to some friends, So, because the Army was the only one that uses scores, I guess, for certain things, and they were just kind of shocked by that. But I do have to thank my ex-brother-in-law for helping me out with that to get into a job that, would have some kind of decent, transference on the outside, even though when you're that young, you don't think about things like that.
So how long
Well,
did it take before you were able to get into the Rotary flight school?
I said that was after about 8 years. I put the packet in, and it took me about a good year to put that packet together. It's a very complex process. The actual application itself is easy, but you have to get recommendations from different people. Your current commander, a commander that's in a flight detachment, a senior, aviation officer, blah, blah, blah. So, but fortunately for me, I was already in an aviation unit, so those weren't hard to get at all. But then, of course, the next hardest part is passing the flight physical. You have to pass the Class 1 medical, and that can be a problem for a lot of people. So I fortunately was able to pass through that, and then there's a few other things that had to get done. I think the other one was the flight aptitude test. I studied really, really hard for that. There was a guide that you could do, and different sections of time test, and I was really worried about it, but I passed it the first time, so I was like, thank God for that. Also, I'm not sure if the other services have a GT score. It was a little bit on the lower side, so I had to get that up a little bit, so I retook that test. So that, overall, about a year, but it was something I was determined to do, and fortunately for me, first time my packet went in front of the board, I did get selected, and I was ecstatic, over the moon about it, because I was like, oh my God, my life's about to change.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting. And then how long after? Because that's a long process, a year to get accepted into the school. And then how long is the training?
Average training is about 9 months, actually. So,
Okay.
yeah. So essentially, when you go through the warrant officer training first, basically, which is about 6 weeks, which is at Fort Rucker as well. So, and you could be, for the pilot side, you can be an E1 applying for flight school, and if you have your packet looks okay, they'll pick you up. Other people, if you're already like an E5 or above, and you're trying to stay in your current job that you're doing, but you want to become a warden instead, they require so many years of experience to do that job. But yeah, pilot side, you can be as young as E1, but you get through the warrant officer school. And when I went through, it was only 6 weeks. Back in the day, they had it where they kind of combined the two. So you were still in warrant officer training all the way through flight school. So a lot of pilots I knew when I was enlisted, they were like, you never knew one day you came back and if you were going to fail because you didn't pass a check right or something. So, but no, once you get through warrant officer school, you're fine. Then the flight school part, and each phase is several weeks long. But it's interesting training, for sure. I think getting through the phase 1, which is they call them the crash and bangs, learning your emergency procedures and stuff. That's a new experience altogether, especially trying to do an auto rotation. You're like, oh my God, am I going to die?
And
Yeah.
what a good way, though, like you said, to pick up rank pretty quick. I don't think I've ever heard of any MLS field that would be that quick.
Well, I'm trying to see how to answer that question. Yeah, so if you're going for the flight portion, whether you're E5, E1, whatever the case, you get pinned W1, and then you're W1 for 2 years. And as long as you don't do anything stupid for 2 years, you'll make your W2. It's pretty much a given. After that, then of course it's all board selection. So depending on how your evaluation reports are and your performance and stuff like that. So getting picked up for 3 is a pretty big deal. And after that, it's 4 is like, back then that's all there was W4, but then they moved to give you a W5 as well, which I wasn't going to go for because that's all political and that's working up at higher levels, and I just didn't see that in the cards for myself, basically. So, but you got to put a lot of time and effort in. You got to be that technical expert, and on the aviation side for sure, it's that's the majority of warrants in the Army is on the aviation side anyway. So you just really need to know your job and study, and then you can get tracked to do different things. And by saying that, you can eventually become an instructor pilot. You can become a technical operations expert. You can become a safety guy. And there's I forget what the other one is, but or a maintenance guy, sorry, which is what I actually went to do myself because I had a previous maintenance background. So
when you had whether it was boot camp, OCS, whatever the case is amongst all veterans, that is such a I don't want to say life-changing event because in my case, I found the whole thing comical. but for some, it's a very, very life-changing event.
For sure.
It's definitely a new chapter in people's lives for sure. And did you have anybody like, oh man, this is my ride or die, this is my buddy, this, my battle buddy type thing, that you kind of grinded it out with and you still keep in contact today?
Unfortunately not. We did make friends, of course, but no, there's no one to this day from basic training that I really keep in touch with. It was a challenge. I mean, I've kind of been exposed to that kind of atmosphere before to a point, but I think, when it's 24/7 for what, 8 weeks, 12 weeks, whatever it is, it's a lot. And I did mine at Fort Knox, Kentucky. So that was the land of armor out there and stuff, but it was interesting. I mean, yeah, I just remember some of those ruck marches up those hills that they have there, and they're killer hills. I mean, to go up a hill like that, you're just with the pack on your back, it's like daunting. I mean, you're just like, God, can this be over with, please? So yeah, that was, for me back then, that was a pretty big ordeal. Some people, took it with a grain of salt. Others took it a little more serious. Each had their own, I don't know, I guess agendas going into there, I suppose. But yeah, I just took it as it came and knowing it was going to end one day eventually. So.
Gotcha. Well, so what about like when you went through flight school too? Are you got anybody from there that you still kind of ping, social media, whatever, talk back and forth with?
Occasionally, yeah. Not too much as I wish though. But yeah, no, flight school was definitely God, that was interesting. I mean, everyone's got each other's back. You're always having study groups, after you finish your day and stuff. And I think the instrument portion was probably the toughest, just to learn all that stuff. I mean, that's you can relate to that being a flight guy. I'm not sure. Do you do instruments as well or no?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So instruments was really tough for me. And ironically now though, in my job, I actually we fly single pilot IFR. So I would never thought I would see myself in that kind of position one day, but kind of off the beaten track here is that, the company I'm with now, they had a good training program in place, some really good pilots to learn from. And I feel more confident now with, IFR than I've ever felt before. And so it's a good thing. But yeah, flight school was definitely rigorous. Instruments was tough. And then after that, you had what's called basic combat skills, where you learn all your military stuff, basically, navigating through, over terrain, and figure out, where you got to go, time, distance, heading stuff. And then once you get to your destination, there's certain maneuvers you have to accomplish there as well. And you're like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? They see the instructor do it, and of course, a piece of cake. Then you get it, and you're all over the place, So you learn all that stuff. But I think the night vision goggle portion was probably another eye opener there. Putting on a set of MVGs, while you're flying, it's like, are you kidding me? And everyone does the same thing when they start out. You put it on there, you come up to a hover, and you're like 10, 20 feet in the air because you think you're gonna hit the ground if you go lower. They're like, no, you're too high. And eventually you'll learn that, about 3 to 5 feet above the ground is acceptable, and you're just like, my God, am I gonna hit the ground or not? But it's all about depth perception, so it just comes with time and training. So, and fortunately now in my current job, we still fly with goggles. So
yeah. So out of all that training that you went through, did you have any traditions that still kind of stick with you, that you're proud, you're very glad that you went through?
Traditions as in?
So take, for instance, I knew the first time I soloed, they turn around and he's like, hey, here, I want you to wear this shirt. And I didn't know about it, didn't think nothing of it. And then after I did my little 3 landings and came back in, he's like, all right, come here. And then, shut the plane down. I get out, and then the dude's back there cutting away at my shirt tail. So and that's something that, if you're not part of the 1%, a lot of folks don't even know about. But on the military side of the house with you guys in flight school, get wet, the get wet ceremony, stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Did you have some traditions and stuff that you're really, some people look at it as hazing. Some people
Right. Yeah.
are proud to call it tradition. So, in your case, did you have stuff that you really enjoyed?
Well, through flight school, we had a thing known as the nickel ride. Basically, that was your solo flight, essentially. So um, that was interesting per se. Be out on your own with just another student pilot, without the IP, and do 3 takeoffs and landings, and come back, and you get your nickel, and you had to find a nickel that had your birth year on it. So I'm not sure if I still have it or not, honestly, but that was unique. But I think nothing else too big, except when you actually do retire from the service. You get the water hose treatment. You finally get out of the aircraft, and you go a short distance away, and everyone's surrounding you. And next thing you know, you just get doused with a fire hose, until you're totally drenched. And then, of course, they talk about all the good stuff you've done and great person you are and stuff like that. So that's something to look forward to. But that was a very somber time, because like you realize that's your last flight in service. And you're leaving an institution that for me, was quarter century for me, 23 and a half years of my life. So it was very kind of heartbreaking as well, knowing that you're going to be leaving soon. So
Well, I think it's hard too when you leave something that you are so passionate about. And a lot of us really apply our identity to the job that we're doing or the career path that we've chosen. When we leave that, we feel like part of us is lost. So many of the branches now are doing different types of transition assistance for soldiers and Marines and sailors when they exit from the military, whether it's on a medical, honorable discharge. I don't know if they did that when you were in. How did that go when you decided to retire?
there was programs in place, actually. And I kind of knew what I wanted to do at that point. As a officer, we were actually given like 2 years of transition time, which I didn't need 2 years personally, but I think I knew I wanted to fly medevac, essentially, and I started looking for those jobs and looking at different companies and stuff. And fortunately for me, a friend of mine that I worked with, he had a family member that worked at the company I work for now up here in Ohio, and they said, well, he heard they were looking for pilots. And I was like, oh, okay, well, give me some information and I'll send it off and see what happens. So I did, and for a few months I didn't hear anything back, and that's kind of the norm and stuff. So next thing you know, I remember this vividly too. It was like a Sunday morning, about 7 in the morning, and I'm in my den on my couch, and I'm doing my normal LinkedIn stuff, looking for jobs, networking and so on. And I get this call from Toledo, Ohio at 7 in the morning. I'm like, who's calling me at 7 in the morning on a Sunday? Well, it turns out it was the chief pilot. And I was like, okay. And he says, hey, I got your resume in front of me here. I was like, oh, really? And so he started talking about some stuff. And then as soon as he started talking about instrument stuff, I said, let me stop you right there. I said, I have not flown instruments in I don't know how many years. I'm rusty with it, so I may not be your best choice as an applicant. Let's tell you straight up. It's like, well, that's fine. It's like, we usually do VFR for the first year, and then we just transition people into that as time goes on. I'm like, okay. So keep talking. So we did, and finally made arrangements to go up and have a quick, a meeting, interview basically. So I went up there and met him. He's an early riser too, so it was like first thing in the morning, sun up, and he brings in this Dolphin aircraft. I'm like there's a beast, And so he tells me, I was like, so what are we gonna do? He's like, we're going on a quick flight. I'm like, what? And says strap in. And I get in. I'm like, okay. And of course he takes off a little bit. And then all of a sudden he gives me the controls and he tells me what he wants me to do. And I was like, okay. And it was just basically, he was telling me pretty much the medevac profile that they fly, and see if I can do it and stuff, and also to see, does he really have 3,000 hours worth of flight training that that he can quantify. And so we did all that, and all he was saying, good job. That's all he was saying. And it's not really like, okay, you're saying that because you're being nice, or you're saying that because it's true, But he didn't really say much more after that. Then there was a series of peer interviews from base site leads, the lead pilots at different bases and stuff, and you still don't have an idea of what's going on. And so I left there, and it was a Friday, I think, driving home, and he calls me. He's like, hey, just to let you know, this is not official, but it's a tentative job offer. So, if you're willing to accept, take the weekend to think about it and get back with me on Monday. I'm like, okay, no problem. Well, while I was there too, they had an Augusta 109 aircraft, and I'm not sure if you remember the TV show Airwolf or not, but it kind of looked like that. And it was like a really sweet looking aircraft. I'm like, there's no way in the world this company's going to hire me to fly this thing. Just not going to happen. And so, but the job offer was there, and I took the weekend and called back Monday. I said, yeah, I'll accept. And it was just a seamless transition for me. I went from being in the service, and next thing you know, while I'm still in, HR is calling me for the information. And I think within the same month that I retired, I was working up there for them. So I was just really fortunate that it worked out that well for me. Other people, unfortunately, don't have it that easy, especially if you're, totally, like if you're infantry, if you don't want to become a cop, then you're figuring out what the heck am I going to do now? You need a new college degree or something, you're trying to find a different job that you can do. And it's tough out there in the job market. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So unless you're like aviation or medical or law enforcement, it's hard to find something that equates. So I was just fortunate, but there are programs out there to help people out.
So Rebecca, get this. While Stephen was in, he definitely had a pretty memorable experience flying. So Steve, tell everybody about the war campaigns that you were able to participate in, and some of the fun stories that you definitely have lessons learned on this.
Oh, this is going to be good.
What did I write down? I'm trying to remember that stuff. Did I write anything specifically, or?
Yeah, so little bit of you got a little bit of projectiles that got to come your way, maybe an RPG or two. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, that really that thing didn't happen to me per se, but what I witnessed. So this was Afghanistan. I think it was my second tour there. Anyway, well, I mean, the area we were operating, in the Canada area, so that's always a fluid situation day in, day out. But we're out doing our normal reconnaissance missions, and next thing you know, there's reports of possible enemy contact. We go and investigate, and next thing you know, there's smoke trails coming around us. Obviously, RPGs are getting shot at us. We're like, okay, we need to get the heck out of here, and do what we can for defensive fire and go back. And when we came back to the base to swap out aircraft to go back out again, that's what we did. My buddy, he had this huge hole in like the back of his aircraft, basically, and you could see where the RPG had gone right through the aircraft. You saw the shape of the fins through the sheet metal and stuff as it just went right through it. And you're like, holy crap! Sorry. Anyway. But come to find out that it had gone through one of the control tubes as well. And the control tube that controls his pedals was basically hanging on like by a very thin piece of sheet metal. And if it had gone on any longer, he probably would have lost his control and probably crashed somewhere. So that was a very enlightening day per se. And, but he gets another aircraft and because it does a quick debrief and we go out there and we finish our mission period. So. But that's just what we did. So there was several other things that go on there. One of our guys, I think I was just fortunate with this one where we were out there doing our thing again, and I came back to get some refuel. And when he was out there, they had set an ambush up basically, and he ended up being in this huge crossfire, and basically one of the bullets had entered from the bottom belly of the aircraft and went right through his leg. And so his co-pilot had to reach over there, and while he was trying to take care of himself, the co-pilot was flying to the nearest little fob we had out there for to get medical treatment, and he ended up getting medevaced out essentially. But we wanted to go back out there and take care of business, and our command is like, no, you're staying here. We don't know the exact extent of what's going on. Enough intel. We don't need to lose, because remember, our buddies got shot. Yeah, come to find out later on, there was just this huge ambush that was waiting there because we were flying around trying to find some stuff. So, I mean, that could have been me. I mean, fortunately it wasn't. But after that happened, we all started flying around literally with we had these we call it the medical tourniquets, basically, the field tourniquets, and literally we'd have them around our legs ready to tie off in case that happened again. So that was just our normal our flight uniform from that point on. So
Good times.
yeah,
That's pretty
say.
scary.
always good
Actually,
times.
I mean,
Oh my God. Yeah, we actually had trained for, in the event that to pick up like a down pilot, that we would land, and we had kind of like what you call wing stores basically. So, but we had like a D-ring on our vest, and if we had to, we would strap the guy onto the side, and he'd be able to sit there basically. And as we're flying away, if he had to shoot from the wing stores while we're flying away, he could do that. So we did train for that. Fortunately, we never had to do it, but that's kind of like, Hollywood stuff right there.
yeah, I bet the training for that in itself was just, I mean, a blast.
Yeah, but getting to that point was tough because I had to have all the safety parameters in place, and it was that was like a last final thought if you had to do that and stuff. So I don't think we had to do that, but yeah, it's an interesting time out there. I mean, we just reconnaissance was our main thing, but yeah, there was a few firefights that were taking place.
So over the course of your career then, did you take a lot of pictures and things so that you could have a memory book? Or
I did. Unfortunately, the laptop I used, it died on me, and I'm still trying to figure out how to get the pictures off the hard drive. But I do have a ton of pics from that time era. So once I can figure that out,
there's
I'll
a
be better.
way.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
there's a
there
way to
is.
do that.
I do have some pics though, and I post them periodically. But some people are just like, yeah, that's kind of cool, and they just kind of pass it off because they're not really familiar with the military and stuff. So I'm not going to slam it down people's throat, or and keep just dishing out and stuff like that. You got to kind of do it in moderation, I think.
So after you transitioned out and you got hired on to with sort of the Airwolf.
Yeah.
Did you stay there? Is that still what you're doing?
I am. Yes, I'm still there. This will be my coming on my 8th year working for them. So it's a challenging but yet rewarding job, I'll tell you. I think the medical landscape has definitely changed over the past few years. Unfortunately, when you get politics involved, that never helps. But I don't mean just like politics from DC. Really, I'm just like politics in general with medicine and stuff. That always takes effect. But no, I mean it's every day. It's every time I go back to work. It's a unique experience. I work with some great people. I enjoy flying the aircraft. It's fun. It can be hard at times. It's hard, especially in the summertime and nights, if you could be flying all night sometimes, transporting patients around. But, we're just signed on to do. So it's what you got to do. But no, it's rewarding. I mean, it's not great getting woke up in the middle of the night, but hey, it's part of the job. So, but no, it's fun.
Actually, you know what, that brings up a good point, because
What's that?
for a lot of people that don't live in the aviation world, they wouldn't know this, but to get woken up in the middle of the night, does that mean that, hey, you've got a maintenance crew that's got that thing ready waiting on you when you get there, and you just go in, you brief, you follow your plan, and then boom, you're out the door? Or do you have to go in and put quite a bit of more work into that yourself? That's something that a lot of military folks don't realize, like once you get in the civilian side of the house, a lot of stuff like that isn't, that yellow carpet's not laid out for you anymore. You
Yeah.
got to be a lot of hands-on yourself now.
Yeah, no, that's true. It was a huge learning curve for general aviation for me. When you're in the military, it's kind of like a can scenario, essentially. You know that, you're going to be doing some mostly military style flying, practicing your tactics out in the back 40 and stuff. But the civilian side's much different. I mean, FAA really has a tight lid on all that kind of stuff. So if I come into work and if there isn't a call right away, which does happen sometimes, it's you got to check the weather, of course, see what it's going to be like for the entire shift, evaluate what's going on, basically. Fill out your paperwork, who's your crew, brief the crew on the weather and everything else on the checklist that's pertinent to the flight. Go pre-flight your aircraft, and there's just a bunch of things now that we have to do prior to any call that comes in. And even when the call comes in, it's like, okay, got it. The weather's good, great, but there's still some admin stuff that has to get done. That if you don't get it done, later on, something goes wrong, can definitely catch up to you. So there's definitely a process involved, and luckily, between the stuff I learned in the service, so some great instructor pilots, some great instructors that are still, in my company right now. You just take all the tips and advice, information, and you kind of cultivate your own process, basically, what works for you. And so I follow that same process day in, day out. And, as much as sometimes you feel like you want to like cut that corner a little bit, it's like you can't, just don't do it, because, it's going to you in the butt later on. But you follow that. The only time really things change a lot is if you get called to an accident scene, especially if it's like on a road or in the field. That just changes the dynamic for everything. The things that we have to consider as a crew. And after a while, it also almost becomes second nature. There might be a few things that might change, but overall, it's just after you just know how to deal with it, and the crew comes together because you all got to make it there safe and back safe and everything else. So it's a team effort, but yeah, there's a lot that's involved for sure. Yeah, the flying part is probably the easiest part.
Gotcha. So were you able to take advantage of anything when you got out, say your post 9/11 GI Bill, any type of extra training, stuff like that? A lot of your benefits that veterans have that some of them may not be familiar with at all. Something that you could share with anybody.
Well, my education benefits, actually, I gave most of them away to one of my kids so that he could go and attend college. That's the only thing I regret right now, is not actually finishing up my college degree. So, but no, I gave most of it to him. So he's a graduate of Tiffin University. He's actually in the Navy right now. He's a corpsman. So I'm very proud of him for that. But there's lots of benefits out there. I mean, I'm not familiar with all of them because I didn't have to use any of them, thankfully. But there's points for being a veteran if you want to work for a government contract job or a government civilian job, whatever. So you use that to your advantage. But yeah, I'm sure there's a ton of stuff, but I'm just not familiar with all of them right now.
That's actually awesome to hear. I'm glad that somebody in your family was really smart, went to the Navy. That's awesome.
Oh, wait a minute. Because I was going to say yes, and he went to college, and here you. Oh, goodness. Okay, so
yeah,
I think it's very honorable that you've raised up someone who wants to serve his country. And many of us veterans do have children that follow in our footsteps, and then we also have some that will take the college route, and then you've got yours who do both, which is pretty awesome too. So in addition, though, Steve, to being a Lifeflight pilot, and you have also pursued that stage role that you had as a child and went on into the acting arena. How did you transition into starting to get some of the roles that you have?
Persistence and tenacity. That's probably the two biggest things I can tell you. Which as a young child, I don't think I realized I even had back then. But as I've grown up now and more mature and that's definitely there. But I think it was just before I retired. I don't know where the idea came from, but I said, hey, acting kind of sounds cool. So I did an acting workshop when I was stationed in Tennessee. He was up in Nashville. There's a guy named Alan Dysert. He used to be a full contract actor player on All My Children, I'm sorry, I think. And so he has a workshop that he does. And I attended a weekend workshop with that. And we did cold reads on the stage. And I got the acting bug after that weekend. I'm like, this is something I really want to pursue. And it took me a while. I had to, once I moved and got myself settled in, just researching some stuff, and was lucky enough to find a agency that wanted to represent me after I did an interview with them. And I actually did a convention out in New York, a week-long convention. It's called IMTA, and basically it hosts a bunch of like casting directors and producers and stuff like that, just to see up and coming talent, just see whom they might want to represent and whatever. But you go through a series of things. You do monologues, you do just a bunch of stuff. And I got a few hits from some people that they wanted to see me again, and I kind of pursued that a little bit, but it really wasn't going to work out for me at that point. I wasn't like ready to make a move to New York or LA or anything like that. So then there's the indie film culture that's out there, and that's it's very unique. People come together for a common good for little to no pay, but it's fun to do, and a lot of the projects, the themes are, I'm like, hey, this sounds kind of cool. So, and like you alluded to earlier, Rebecca, with Crisis in the Valley, that was like my first acting role that I had. And to make this long story short on that, I got cast for that based off a Facebook comment that I made to a friend of mine. The director saw it, he saw me, and he's like, hey, I'd lost my guy that was doing that role, you look perfect for it, here's a script, let me know what you think. And after I read it, I was a little bit hesitant, but I was like, sometimes you gotta take that leap of faith, and I did. So I did the role, and it was exhilarating to do it. And then, other things just come up. But I think, persistence, tenacity, just keep at it, and it's one of those journeys or those things that, there's nothing given in that career field at all. I mean, you can go 15, 20 years and never really make it big, depending on what big is in your mind, but it's fun to do. So as long as you're doing it for the fun of acting, and you put your 100% heart into it, then, things will hopefully, fall where they should, and great things come. And I've been fortunate enough to have a couple of great opportunities come my way. But between, I think, determination, persistence, tenacity, all that kind of stuff, and then being big on social media, I think that's like a killer for some people. It's like they don't want to deal with the social media or how to do it and stuff. So, through YouTube research and internet research and stuff, I found some people that are able to help with that. And it's a daily thing. I just got to keep on there and keep my presence known, and at the same time, applaud or support others that are getting booked for stuff or whatever they're doing, because, it's just what way that you should be, and it has its ups and downs, that's for sure, I have to say.
Well, when you talk about the social media aspect of it, with your work schedule and then still doing filming, you have your web series and you still have to be interactive. I know there's a lot of people who get social media managers. I don't know how you can multitask so well, but it's pretty awesome because you're doing a great job. I watch you on social media all the time, and I mean, you're really hitting it. So
I tell you, I think, going through the warrant officer training is what helps you learn how to, balance your time out. You got to just figure out how much time to put towards certain things. And then my job as a test pilot, though, I think helped a lot because you were able to multitask many things at one time. It just after a while, it just becomes second nature to you. So certain things I pick up quickly, other things take a little bit of time. But I don't have a social media manager. That is me, basically. there was a woman out in LA named Heidi Dean. I mean, in California, actually, I should say. And she's like the social media guru, essentially. And her handle is marketing for actors. And she used to be, you know, a SAG actor and stuff. And she used to manage some big celebrities' accounts. Now she's basically this this teacher. I mean, she has these programs, you know, that you can go to and, you know, and subscribe to, and they're like lifelong programs, but she teaches you A to Z, all the social media platforms, how to use them, you know, what works, what doesn't work. And I mean, some things I don't use. I mean, I'm not on TikTok. I just don't see myself as a TikTok kind of guy, I'll be honest with you. But, you know, Facebook, Twitter is like one of my big main things. Instagram, I'm still trying to get a handle on that, essentially. I don't like taking a whole lot of selfies personally, you know, and you know, I'm not always on set, so I can't always post acting stuff, but you got to kind of keep a balance, you know, personal life, acting, and everything else. So what looks interesting, but you know, with my demographic, I'm almost 50, you know, so I'm not going to appeal to a 24-year-old. I'm sorry, probably, you know, but
I think you're doing a really good job at it, and you've made a really good point in something that we do like to talk, Joe, with other veterans about, and that's the skills that they learned while they were in and how applicable they were or are in what you're doing now. And you just shared with us that the things that you learned as far as time management skills and things like
oh yeah.
that really made a difference for you and is still doing that.
Yeah, it's definitely a self-discipline, a lot of that stuff. You know, with my work schedule, I work a week on, week off. So when I'm at work, of course, I'm not as big on social media or a lot of posting because I'm keeping my focus at work. So when I'm off work, that's when you know, I'll go back to that and stuff. But it's a juggling act, but something you got to have, you know, determination with and motivation with. And I was going to say something else really profound. I forgot what it was, but oh yeah. So you know, I'm not really a big tech guy per se, and so you know, learning how to upload certain files and stuff like that in a certain way, a certain parameter. You know, YouTube has videos for all that stuff. You can find anything you want there. So, but you know, forcing yourself to go and find that, to learn that, you know, watching videos over and over and over again just to learn how to do certain things. And you know, my biggest hurdle lately, which I'm glad to tell you guys about, is that you know, I'm pretty much done producing my first audiobook, and I had no idea what I was getting into when I was doing that. But you know, getting the equipment, doing the recording, learning how to record properly, you know, the editing itself is just, it's mind blowing, because learning how to use Adobe Audition as an editor, I mean, that's like college level stuff at some of that stuff, as far as I'm concerned, you know, learning new vocabulary, new terms, all that kind of stuff. And it took me a little while, but I finally got the hang of it. But, you know, just learning how to, you know, change files or do this, or whatever else. And, you know, it's a daunting task, but if it's something you really want to do, you just got to put your mind to it and say, okay, look, I'm going to learn this, and you got to do it. And so that's just what I've done, you know, and it's a trial and error, hit and miss, but first audiobook is done right now. The author is reading it. So hopefully that'll be out on, you know, audiobook here soon for people to read. And, you know, it's called The Seasons of Sam Rock. And basically it's about a Hollywood private investigator in the 1950s who gets hired to find a missing person. And while he's looking for this person, other things start to develop and unravel, and you get to learn about the Hollywood Underground and a bunch of other stuff. And the author wrote her really, really well. I mean, her name is Ann Wilmer-Lasky. She lives in Arizona, but she has tons of other books out. But after I read that book, I was like, it's very compelling. I couldn't put it down, which was a good thing. So, but I got my experience at an audiobook, and after a while, I was like, I'm never doing this again. But now that I'm done with it, I'm like, I probably wouldn't mind doing it, which I'm also pursuing voiceover stuff as well right now. So that's my other thing.
I'm kind of dumbfounded, going, man, hurry up, learn all that stuff that you need to, because we really need a video and an audio editor for the show. So hurry up, Steve.
Well, I think it's pretty exciting. I mean, because a lot of this is really difficult to get into, and you're just doing it. You have really started taking a focus on pursuing all the things that you wanted to do, and you're making it happen. And what's really exciting is it's kind of like what you just said. when you go, okay, this was so difficult. I don't think I want to do this again. And I can think of numerous times in my military career or in my career in law enforcement, I'm like, I don't want to do this again. And it was just so arduous. And when it was all said and done, the pride that you feel, the confidence you feel afterwards, you're like, oh man, I got this. I can do this again. And then you look for these opportunities to get involved with something again. And it's really interesting because I think, Joe, maybe you have found this too, that once you have this confidence and the skills, even when there's been a duration that goes by where you kind of get down in the dumps, you still call upon those things and you start pursuing them again so that you can feel what you felt before. Have you found that? Either of you?
Oh, go ahead, Joe. If you have something to say, go ahead.
Oh man, this show's about you.
Oh,
This is all you.
Oh, yeah, I can relate to that actually. No problem. So yeah, like with the audiobook stuff. Once I learned how to use the editing software, which was a total pain, but now I've gotten really good at it. I still got to make some tweaks here and there, as far as recording room stuff and things like that. But uh, yeah, the voice stuff, there's a guy in Chicago. His name is Bill DeWeese, and he's a professional voiceover artist, voiceover talent, and he's got a YouTube channel. And he was like my biggest role model when it comes to voiceover stuff when I found him, because he gives some training videos and things like that, how to break into the business. He mentioned the same thing like in acting. You got to be tenacious, you got to be determined. You can't expect to do this stuff for 3 months and start making 6-figure salaries. People got to learn to like you, got to learn to know you, and customer service skills. If you're going to do a product, get out there as quick back as possible as you can and as professional as you can. So luckily for me, of course my OCD kind of kicks in and bites me in the butt sometimes, but you want to make sure it's edited to the point of where it just sounds so professional, even though I don't have a professional studio, that people like it. And if someone sends me an email, I want to be able to respond to them, within 24 hours or less, and say, yep, I got it, I'll fix it for you, and be able to do that. So you just got to have that mindset. So, which is, when I'm on social media, like first thing in the morning, I'm sure you've seen this, Rebecca, I put out like, every morning I try, it's like, hey, good Monday, Tuesday, whatever, Wednesday morning to you, whatever. And I'll try to put some kind of positive message out there for people. And, one of my hashtags I'll put in there is like, positive mindset or whatever. And it's not just, just to do it, but it's like, I live it, I mean it, and I'm trying to pass that on, And if I can just get at least one like out of it, hey, that's one person I've reached, and over time, the past several months, I mean, it's building more and more of an audience, which is great, but that's just my thing. And, it just takes some time, but I enjoy trying to uplift people. And there's a few others out there that are with me on that. And I've mentioned them in a few other tweets before. There's a woman named Beth Freites, and there's Cynthia Bazin, and they're both very motivational type of people. Beth is a medical professional, and Cynthia is more of a motivational speaker. So we kind of bounce off each other with that kind of stuff, and it's good stuff there. But yeah, it's the balancing act can be tough. Sometimes I have to take a break from social media and say, okay, I've had enough of this and just take a break, But I enjoy it. I mean, I think it's something people need, and in light of recent events and stuff, I think we need unity more than ever now. And I won't get into more politics with that, but all I'm going to say on that topic too is, and I'm sure that you both can agree with me on this, is that once I saw what was unfolding, I was in shock and dismay and totally upset. I mean, a whole range of emotions. And I was actually eating dinner at a restaurant that night, and just sitting with my wife, and just started almost basically in tears, crying with what was happening. I was like, I can't believe this is happening in our country. It's just ridiculous. And I'm hoping there's gonna be a better outcome here on the other side and stuff. But it blew me away, because I spent 23 years with you guys, defending this country as well. And how did we come to this? It's crazy. So still have a hard time wrapping my head around it. So yeah, I mean, I hope I answered your question on that. It's I'm pursuing just a bunch of different things, and I think between my day job or my full-time paying job, and then the acting, and then the voiceover will be the three things I'm going to keep pursuing. And the acting can be a little bit wishy-washy sometimes, because you never know. Casting call comes out, you submit an audition, it's 50-50, you're going to get a call, so you just have to keep going, moving forward. And the same with voiceover stuff though too. I mean, depends on how you sound, if people want to use it or not, but you just got to keep moving forward, keep putting it out there, and hope for the best, and just keep putting it out there, think positive, and just take rejection one day at a time, and just kind of shut it off, like, okay, fine, put it somewhere else, and eventually something good's going to happen. I mean, it just has to. So you just got to keep going with it.
Well, some of the good things that I've picked up from all the way from the adversity that happened ever since you were a child, all the way till the adversity you're still facing today. One of the two common denominators I've noticed with you that has led to your success is straight up. It's one, it's persistent. You stayed with it regardless of it. And then two, you didn't try to do it alone. You had yourself surrounded by supportive people and other people that you leaned on to help get you through it. And that's amazing. To me, it's very admirable. And I respect that about you a lot, Steve. You stayed persistent, and you were humble enough to stay open-minded and say, you know what, I can't do this alone. I got to go seek other people to help get me through this. And man, that's outstanding. So thanks for being on the show today, Steve. Thanks for literally sharing your experiences with us. And I'm pretty sure, I mean, you gave me some inspiration for the day as I carry on, but I'm pretty sure you're going to inspire a lot of more people out there from doing this. So thank you, sir.
Oh, you're most welcome. No problem. I said I'm honored and humbled to be on here. Yeah, I try to inspire people daily. It's just, to me, it's just the right thing to do. I don't do it for my own personal benefit. I mean, I do it because I do generally care about people. So and sometimes that can be my downfall with certain things. I care too much, I think sometimes. But I mean, I know Rebecca and I had a private chat here not long ago about one of her family members, and my messages to her, weren't just to kind of keep in the spotlight, but I was generally, concerned over what was going on, with her situation. So hopefully that all came out well for you as well.
And I thank you so much, Steve, because you are an inspiration. And I want to share too that it's really important that we as veterans all connect with each other. We have a different understanding than our peers that have not had the same type of training, and the advice and the way it's presented can really make a huge difference. So I want to thank you for that. And I also want to thank you for coming on the show today and sharing so much about your life with us. I know that you are definitely going to make a difference in someone who sees this. And
hopefully.
So I want to thank you for that so much.
No problem. I guess my parting message for anyone that's watching, is whatever your dreams and goals are, pursue them with as much vigor as you can, persistence, determination, tenacity. Don't take no for an answer. Keep doing what you're doing, but if you find yourself, in some kind of predicament of some sort, there is, always someone to talk to, some kind of help or guidance to find. It's out there. You just got to find it. So I'm always, willing to help people out as well, as much as possible. I know that Joe and I, we shared a common bond with some stuff before the show started about some stuff, and it's my dad went through some depression times as well, and unfortunately, at a young age, it took his life too. So I deal with that every day. I think about him every day, but just knowing that I have a personal connection to that, and when I hear certain things or see certain signs, it's like, hey, you okay? And all veterans, should be able to talk to each other. I do keep in touch with some guys on social media, they're always supportive, when they see some of my posts, like, hey, great job. Can't wait to see you on the big screen and stuff. And I kind of take it with a grain of salt because, that's not what my intention is.
Sure.
I just, it's something I found that I like to do, and I'm gonna keep pursuing that. And, but anyone that's out there that's looking for some help, I mean, obviously, I'm there, and there's another lady I'll give a shout out to is Melanie Korich. She's a teacher up in Canada, and she's always got some uplifting, inspiring messages as well. So I think between the three of those ladies and the things that I
Okay.
do, it's just good stuff. So yeah, but keep what you're doing out there, pursue everything, and don't stop.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Stephen. We want to thank all of you for watching another episode of TVO Campfire. We do appreciate your time, and we want to make sure that we deliver some inspiration and hope and anything else that we can do, including resources and uplifting messages to help you. So thanks for tuning in. We ask that you share the video with everybody that you know on social media, and especially veterans that we can touch and make a difference in their lives. So thanks for tuning in.